Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Idol Hoffmeyer, and joining me is David All-Star Cross. Thank you for joining me.
I'm excited to be here, but before we get started, I nearly need you to do something for me. Fire the flares, block the haters.
Done.
All right, done. Internet haters, go away.
I just want everyone to know how dedicated we are because we both went on to Top Gun name generators and came up with our log line, or what, our nicknames for this episode. So I'm Idol and you're All-Star.
Yeah, I think All-Star's not bad, right? Not bad. I think it could be better. And I think we should choose our own call signs. And I put a lot of thought into this. I'm going to be Noodle.
David Noodle Cross.
And here's the thing. When the temperature gets turned up, I stay adaptable. I stay flexible. Also, here's the thing.
And sometimes you stick to the wall.
I hope not in a plane.
Yeah.
The other thing is I think it's really funny not to have a dangerous name and just have like something that looks kind of goofy or silly because they'll underestimate you.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to underestimate Noodle just like they underestimated Bob.
See, I'm going to be pretty good. Mark, pretty good Hoffmeyer. So
Not great. Pretty good.
So on my airplane, it's just pretty. Where's pretty good at? Where's pretty good? Hey, that was pretty good. So it's. But you know what's interesting? When you're out and about and you see somebody do something, you're like, that was pretty good. Like that pretty good is actually really good. But you just sort of say that was pretty good because you didn't expect it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what do you think's the worst call sign?
Oh,
is Bob
gosh.
the worst call sign? I don't think so.
No, that's brilliant. I think something like the best or the greatness or just something really full of hyperbole and you're not that, and then you get like shot down. The unshootable, like can't shoot me down, like Mark can't shoot me down Hoffmeyer. Something like that. Like what happened to Mark? He got shot down. What was his nickname? Can't shoot me down. Something like that.
I think it'd be a name, something that's really difficult to pronounce, like xylophone. That's not terrifying at all.
Capricious.
It's worse than Noodle by far.
I like capricious.
Capricious.
Hey,
that's pretty funny too.
Does that pugnacious up there in the sky?
Yeah, I am really interested in how everyone got their names in this film. It sounded like a combination of what everyone called them and then what they wanted. I'm not sure.
You can't make up your nickname. You can't. So
no, you're not supposed. You shouldn't really.
So your nickname, David, is Noodle.
Okay,
right.
But not really because I made it up. So you have to give me one.
Okay, so you would be David. Let's see. David Deep Dive Cross.
Deep dive. Okay, yeah, great.
You're a researcher.
That's not bad, actually.
You do a lot of research.
I am a researcher. Yeah. I do. I guess you would be the host.
Mark the host Hoffmeyer?
Yeah, the host. Because you're doing what? 3 podcasts a week?
Yeah, it's exhausting. Mark the host. Well, we've slowed down a lot on DBS. I do occasional appearances on that. So I've handed the reins over to Jay. Jay, I still jump in. Like that's our show. But yeah, I'm tired. But I love it. I'm talking about Con Air. I'm talking about Deep Blue Sea, and now I just talk about. I don't even know what I'm talking about with stuff. Like I know what I'm talking about in movies, films, and flicks, but there's no pattern. Is what I'm saying. Like I know the next episodes, but I can't predict what it'll be, in 2 months. If that makes sense.
Next episode's gonna be fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's fun.
Now we're talking about Top Gun Maverick, the movie that features the best button pushing and knob turning I've ever seen in a film. I'm just gonna, and also thank you to the Last Action Heroes podcast for they saw that quote and then they put it on a poster. So thank you to that. And David, this is the highest grossing film of 2022, and it's one of the highest. It's like the 6th highest grossing film domestically in the history of cinema. I mean, barring inflation, of course. But this is a movie that cost $170 million, which isn't a lot. I mean, if you think about it, Doctor Strange $200 million, Thor: Love and Thunder cost $250 million to make. So you have Top Gun Maverick, $170 million. It pulls in $1,486,657,763. That's just a lot of money for a sequel that's maybe almost 30 years in the making, that doesn't feature superheroes. It's still a sequel. It's still established IP, But this is a blockbuster, David. This is a 1990s Independence Day Twister-esque blockbuster that just cleaned and just made money, and it's beautiful, is it not?
Oh, it's amazing. Because I was trying to think of like what other movies are huge blockbusters, event movies in the last several years. And I can say, the first Avengers was an event movie, but that's 10 years old at this point. Force Awakens was an event movie. The final Avengers was an event movie, but really don't get a lot of these, especially not now. We used to get them regularly every like 3 a summer or something.
The most I know there's been others, but like I feel like as far as scale and box office, Avatar is probably from 2009 the closest because of the way it pushes camera work, because I mean it's not a sequel, but the way that it's not a comic book movie, it's not a Fast and Furious movie, it is a just gigantic film that took off. That, people were doubting Avatar, which is insane. And then I think with Top Gun Maverick, people were stoked for it, but then they sat down to watch it and they just went, what is happening? Like the amount of work that they put into this, like, they shot, this movie, like they did air to air, they did ground to air shooting, and then they did on plane shooting. So they had 3 different platforms. Like they wanted ground to air to kind of get the scale, zoom past. They had to add rifle scopes to the modified rifle scopes to the cameras to be able to catch the airplanes so that they could pivot and shoot them as they went by. And then you have the air to air. They invented a thing called there's a thing called the Cinejet that would follow these planes around. Then they had to bring in a faster jet to capture the airplane scenes. And then they had the on plane. They put 6 cameras on plane, 4 up front, 2 in the back, sort of GoPros shooting in 4K because they shot all the ground stuff in 6K raw. But on a plane, if you shot 6K raw with 6 cameras, that would just take up too much data. So they shot 4K. They had the actors set the cameras up. Then the actors had to shoot. They had to fly from east to west to get the best sunlight. They had to know how to backlight. It was all natural light up there. And so you're watching this movie, and just the dynamics, the flying, the spins, the stunts, you're up there with them, David. Like, this is a movie that had to devise new technology to tell its story. And I think that's why audiences love it, because it tells a very simple story. It's not, Tom Cruise was on a hot streak with Mission Impossible. He didn't need to make this, like, he wasn't in a slump and they're like, oh, just remake Top Gun to get some heat. He had heat. Not the Michael Mann movie. But yeah, which is really good, by the way. So he just made this with love. He made it with Joseph Kosinski, who made Tron Legacy, Only the Brave, and Oblivion, which they worked on together. And McQuarrie wrote the script. And this is just people, I think, who love cinema, who love the craft, who love Claudio Miranda, the DP. They love cinematography. All the actors put in months of work, and you see everything on screen. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a soupy CGI mess. This one, I was really drawn into just what you talked about. The practical effects of it just makes it look really awesome.
Yeah, and like the practical effects are amazing. And then I just also love that the story is very simple. So like I was talking about Avatar, where James Cameron kept it to be like a Dance with the Wolves, Pocahontas, Ferngully story, so that you could sit in there, you knew where the story was going. As soon as you got an Avatar, you're like, dude's an outsider, he comes in, he's going to fall in love, he's going to protect him, blah, blah, blah. That allowed you to get immersed in the world. This film, he's a hotshot, he's still a hotshot, he gets fired from his post, even though he makes sure that he hits 10 Gs in this plane. Iceman's his savior, and he has to train people in 3 weeks to blow up a facility that's enriching uranium. It's a very simple story, and it also has some Creed vibes where, Rocky trained Creed. Later on, this one, he has to train Rooster. And there's not much weight pulling it down. It's just forward momentum all the way through. It's just he gets booted out. He meets up with Jennifer Connelly, who's awesome. He doesn't find a new love. They're former flames. So you move that story forward. And then they just go towards the mission. It's such a simple story, but that's what allows for the beautiful camera work, the insane flights, just I don't know. I don't care about hyperbole. Just the beautiful looking dog fights in this movie, and by keeping the story simple, they were able to make just a really cool blockbuster that you could follow easily and just immerse yourself in it. Like, this isn't Annihilation in space. Like, it's not a heady Inception type movie where you have to sit there and like watch and embrace and you have to watch and you have to pay attention and like, oh, what's that top doing? What's this dream doing? What's this doing? You're like, no, this is the plan. He's training them. They go on the mission. And just it allows you to just sit, relax, and get blown away by the action. I'm not saying you don't have to think, but it's just designed to be a blockbuster, a beautiful blockbuster.
So that's clearly some of the reasons why it won. So you would say it's a not one. I guess it did win the year. Let's call it say it's winning the year.
Oh yeah.
So you're trying to say this is a 4-quadrant movie is what I'm getting at. And you know those 4 quadrants. I do not know what those are.
You have like the kids who can go see it. You have the middle-aged men and women. Then you have the older crowd. So like every quadrant, like if you're looking for a little bit of romance, you have the really neat romance with Jennifer Connelly. You have the relationship with Miles Teller, the father figure-esque relationship. You have the aerial dog fights. You have a bunch of shirtless people on a beach looking incredibly jacked and doing dead dances that become gifts. You have the action, the dog fights. There are moments in this movie, David, where I don't think I breathed. I think I sat there for 2 minutes not breathing. Just when Tom Cruise is doing his run, and you're just sitting.
I freaked out.
Yeah, dude. Like you sit there and you just don't breathe. So this is a movie that people who loved Top Gun 30 years ago, if you were 20-something years old and you watched Top Gun, you go into it when you're 50 or 60, it's wholesome enough. It's not too crazy. Like this movie there's not too much sex. There's not too violence. So you could take the whole family to it. But you could also be a teenager and go see this movie and go, holy crap. Like look at Miles Teller in this. Look at Glenn Powell. Like look at these like dudes playing football on the beach, or like look at the aerial dog fights. Like men, women, of all ages, I think, could go see this. And there was something for everyone. Like this is a funny story. My wife, she has a coworker, and she was talking about how she took her 13-year-old daughter to go see this movie. And during the beach volleyball scene, the 13-year-old daughter went to her mom. She goes, "Oh, mom." And then the mom goes, "I know." Like, so like I'm telling you, man, like this is a 4-quadrant film in that you could be an action buff. You could be just in the cinema. It's just over 2 hours. It's not too long. And it just hits everything. It knows what it wants. And that's because like Tom Cruise, man, I was watching this interview with him. It's 45 minutes. It was before Cannes. And since he's begun making movies, he would go watch movies with foreign audiences, like international audiences. He would go watch movies when he was on set. He would deal with the grips, the lighting, the gaffers. He would go with the electrics. He would go with catering. Like he watched every aspect of how filmmaking was done. And then he went internationally, watched how people watch movies and how they embrace movies. And he was responsible for he did premieres in all different countries to make sure movie theaters were built. And he understands it. He wants to know what makes movie making tick. And with this movie, Top Gun, I think he nailed it. Like he studied it. Macquarie, he got Kaczynski, who, if you've watched Oblivion or Only the Brave, and I'm talking a lot, David, I'm sorry. If you watch Tron Legacy, he knows how to create beautiful images. Then you have Claudio Miranda, who's totally on game. He brought in actors who spent months of their lives training. This was like everyone on this set seemed as driven as Tom Cruise was. And so, and also I'm really happy that you joined me on this because we talked about The Mummy 2017,
Yep.
And that was a misfire on every level, pretty much. Cruise's character was all wrong. He was like a Lothario. The director wasn't experienced enough. I don't think the director could keep up with Cruise. I don't think the other actors were ready for it. And I just think it sort of fell apart. But in this one, he has Macquarie. He has Kaczynski. He has, Miles Teller has worked with Kaczynski before. Jennifer Connelly has worked with Kaczynski before. They brought, Tom Cruise has worked with him before. So I think they brought in actors who have experience with the directors, and then everyone knew each other, and they were all dedicated to making this happen, and they did it. It's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, it is really, really awesome.
And
so basically what we're getting at is like really great movie just across the audience spectrum.
yeah,
I think one of the reasons it also, we're going to say it won the year. For me, is when I saw this in the theater, there were 2 things I got excited about. The first one is Tom Cruise. If Tom Cruise puts out an action movie, I will go see it no matter what it is. I do not care. I will just sight unseen. I will see it. He knows how to do awesome, awesome things. He relies on practical stunts most of the time. That's what I enjoy. He's also probably, I'm going to get some pushback on this, our best genre actor. That's not a joke. He makes, how many genre movies has he made between like fantasies and sci-fis?
Oh yeah, man.
crap
Like
done.
that's a really great point. If you think Oblivion, Edge of Tomorrow, then he goes and does. I'm not saying it's genre, but he'll go and do a Magnolia. Then
Yeah,
he'll do
yeah.
Interview with the Vampire, Labyrinth. He takes chances.
He used to, but now he mostly does Mission Impossibles, which don't get me wrong, are great. But
Hmm.
since the Oprah thing, he stopped doing chances. I would really like to see him in like a drama, like a serious like chancy drama, but it's kind of not his personality at this moment. He knows how to make really good action movies, and I'm happy about that. But so what I was saying is Tom Cruise. You put him in something, I'm gonna go see it. Second thing is, you gotta remember in May, this came out in late May, movie theaters, there was nothing happening. It was what movies we're gonna watch, right?
Yeah,
Like, there's just nothing going on. So I was like, well, I'm definitely gonna go see this the first chance I get because I have been starved for good movies in the theater.
absolutely. Like it, and this was a proper summer blockbuster too. Like this was a perfect summer film that kept people coming back. I mean, the box office of this that just kept going. It was insane. It was, and also too, like Cruise has been on such a hot streak. And can we talk about kind of taking chances a little bit? Do you mind if we
Yeah, yeah, go
sidetrack?
ahead.
So I think that's a really good point. He, as we said, I've had to watch every Tom Cruise movie 3 times, like go through his filmography 3 times since 2018. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing that you brought up because if you look at like around the 2008 time when he was getting into like when was he sort of getting into his trouble? Like when were his
Oh,
when
that's when he's getting divorced. His divorce, 2008 is probably about right. Was that the second? That's the second Batman. It was like right before that.
the second Batman or second or before Gross Protocol?
Huh. I can't remember. It'd say mid 2000s, late 2000s.
Got it. Well, yeah, like if you think about his like early 2000s runs, like he did like 99, right? He did Eyes Wide Shut and Magnolia, which is pretty unbelievable. And you know what's interesting? I was watching this conversation he was having, and the moderator, the person who was asking him the question, said that this was the first year where he figured out how to be still on screen, because he said that his presence was always magnetic and kinetic. Like when you watch A Few Good Men, when he's walking around, he's swinging a baseball bat. In The Firm, he's running. Lestat, there's always a tick. In Rain Man, he's always frustrated, moving around. Days of Thunder, there's always this kind of cockiness. But in Eyes Wide Shut, he listens. He just sits there and listens to a monologue for 3 minutes. In Magnolia, when he's with his dad, there's this 40-minute period where he's completely silent. So I think at this point he was at this like real creative high, and then he kind of went on to like he tried Vanilla Sky. Then he went into his Spielberg era and also Collateral, which I think is one of his all-time best performances. But you're right. Then he kind of ran into some trouble, and then he started doing like he went back to Ghost Protocol. Then he went to Jack Reacher. I mean, Rock of Ages was a chance, but then he did Oblivion, Edge of Tomorrow, Rogue Nation, Never Go Back, The Mummy, American Made. Those are all very much safe. So it's an interesting thought that you made there, but it's kind of interesting. It's not Dwayne Johnson safe, where it's so watered down that it's like so homogenized. I still think his safe period is creating some pretty amazing films.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, he just relies so much on practical, right?
Hmm.
It looks better. It's going to look better 20 years from now than anything that is mostly CGI based. Again, I'm not trying to like pick on MCU, but like I went back and watched the Avengers and the second Captain America, and there's some real shaky CGI on that now. Like I
Hmm.
was like, I can't believe I didn't see this the first 2 times I watched it.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, anytime you have 1,000 VFX shots, you're just not going to be able to cover all of that. And I mean, I guess it's different worlds though. I mean, because you're trying to build aliens, you're trying to build spaceships. So I guess it's kind of tough to compare. But I think Cruise realizes that. I think he knows worldwide audiences want to see it on, what's on screen. Like remember when we talked about Brotherhood of the Wolf?
Yeah.
And the behind the scenes, the director was trying to make a French action film that was both artistic and action, because he said that, in France, a lot of people looked down on the blockbusters of the time because they were just big and loud and bombastic, and they sort of lost the art. I think Tom Cruise looks at both sides. He's like, what's a blockbuster and what's art? Like he said art is taking chances. And so moving the genre forward, moving filmmaking forward, that's art to him. So he's like, I'm gonna blow up planes, I'm gonna have you hold your breath, but I'm also gonna have some fun and tell a really interesting story while doing it. So then people around the world watch this, and I think they can really relate to it. And also, man, like you don't even know who the villain is in this movie. People have
We don't know it yet. The enemy.
yeah, people have pegged it down, but he wants the world to watch this movie. He's not thinking of just United States. Like he wants the world to see this. And it's, I guess you could say it's cynical that it's so calibrated, but I think this comes from more of a place of love than let's get the biggest audience in their butts to see this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I do. So this is a little bit of a sidebar as well. You mentioned, the adversary, the antagonist of this film is the unnamed country. The fighter pirates are in all black. The planes are all black. And I'm of two minds of this. The one, I think, making it sort of bland, but how would you say?
What do you mean?
Having no name, right? So having no name, you don't know who this is. It allows a larger audience to view it, and it won't antagonize, other countries who also.
Absolutely.
The other thing, but the other thing about it is by not having a name, you're kind of implying that America is a little bit of the world police, and I don't think that was intentional. I don't think that's what they've really been put out to do. But I studied film and rhetoric. So like this is an argument that could easily be made for this film.
No, and that's a good point. But I do think it's to their credit, and I think you're right. But I don't think they never say that. I think they're also kind of, it's one instance in the entire world. So I mean, the entire world could be dealing with issues in other places. And does that make sense? Like it
does, because they're going in. It's not a war. It's we need to protect this area. And there's not like, what's interesting about this movie, there's not a ton of patriotism, right? It's more about the people. It's like we want to be the best at what we do. They're just obsessed with that. And there's no one running around with, a giant American flag saying, go Top Gun. This is all about, can they do their task to perfection?
And that's a great point, because if you think about the first Top Gun, they were Navy recruiters outside when the movie would ended. I mean, there was an uptick in enlistments in the military with Top Gun, because to get the military's approval, they had to get to use military gear. They had to sort of listen to the military in regards to how they were going to shoot it. And I think that movie became a super rah macho America type film, but it was the 80s, and it also kicked up sales in motorcycles and sunglasses as well, but that's an aside. But yeah, this one's more, it's more about switching to drones. It's more about switching to, like the humans aren't really necessary for these jobs. And I think it's almost like a talk about filmmaking where you have Ed Harris coming in talking about, I'm just going to use drones. I'm going to make it less personal. And then Tom Cruise, McQuarrie, and Kaczynski are like, we're going to use humans and we're going to do actual practical stunts and we're going to accomplish this mission. So I wonder if there's a bit of filmmaking critique in there as well. But yeah,
I think that's on purpose. I 100% think that's on purpose. And I've read reviews saying that as well. So it's like, okay, this is out there, right? Like people think this is a little bit of a dig to, CI monsters or CGI monsters.
And also too, you're right. I mean, there is a shot of a flag, but it's on a Navy boat. Like it's not raw. It's not pushing the agenda. Does that make sense? Like where the flags are, it's organic to the story. And I think it's much more about, this is Top Gun Maverick. This isn't Top Gun flexing volleyball school. This is very much so about Tom Cruise, how he's aging, how what the cost of this country has done to him. He has I love that Iceman in this movie just keeps him going from job to job. It makes me and it's kind of sad too. And I think this is one of Cruise's best performances, man. Like I really do. I've watched so much of his movies recently, and when he talks to Iceman with that scene, when he's like, who's better between us? He's like, let's not wreck this interaction. And when he is watching from outside the bar after he gets tossed out, he tries in this movie. This is not a paycheck for him. And
not at all.
No. And
I think he's very conscious of his standing in film. Like he's conscious of what his legacy is going to be.
Yeah.
And so when he does the movie, he's gonna really try for it, especially again in the last 10 years.
And you know what's kind of crazy? So I was reading about how they made this movie, and I think there's a couple brilliant ways that they made this. In the beginning, David, it's straight nostalgia. It's Highway to the Danger Zone. It's Tony Scott back in the 80s, he used these graduated neutral density filters to get it always looked like there was a sunset in Top Gun. And so they recreated that digitally in post to make it look like Top Gun from 86, just to get people back into the vibe of it. Oh man, like highway to the danger zone, run a boat. That scene's not even necessary. I think
Not at all.
but why it's so smart is like, let's get this all out immediately. Let's get all the references, all the sunsets, the original look. Let's get Tony Scott's iconic look out there. Let's get back on the boat. Let's get the song, and then let's move on with the story. So it's not like peppered throughout the movie. They just knock it out in the first 3 minutes. And like, what do you think about that?
Oh, it's great. It's great. It did set you up and remind you why you like the first one as much as you do, but it is also superfluous. But what I would say is like, it's the credits, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of credits are superfluous. Let's be honest.
And that's, you know what? That's a great point. Like we need to do credits, so let's just give people what they want. Like let's put the music up there, and you know I also love all they use Sigma prime lenses. They also use Zeiss Master prime lenses. I think those absolutely look beautiful. And then in post they added additional grain to it, and I just love that this is a movie that understands nostalgia, but then it also understands moving forward. And I think it's one of the rare sequels that work. I mean, if you think about Zoolander 2, Super Troopers 2, Joe Dirt 2, I think Blade Runner to a certain extent was good, but it was just so Denis Villeneuve that it wasn't totally for the mainstream. And this was one of the rare sort of nostalgia-led films that works, if that makes sense. Because there's still, in the beginning, he's looking at photos, and you have Rooster there, who's Goose's son, and they talk about the movie in the past, but they handle it very non-cynically. This isn't a cash grab. This story actually makes sense, and it everything in this movie sort of makes sense, if that makes sense to you, David.
Yeah. We're talking about Tom Cruise's acting. What I think is really important to understand about this film is that because it was practical effects, he had to act in those planes, right? While doing G's. And all the actors did. And it creates some really interesting scenes near the end when they're flying the F-14. Miles Teller, like, I think those are real reactions. I don't think him, like, screaming curse words was in the script. He just was, like, freaking out because they're taking crazy turns. But what I wanted to get is, like, I really want – so I host a podcast about Best Pictures. And I really want the Academy understand and reward Tom Cruise for the acting he did in this movie while going supersonic. You know what I mean? This is very close. Maybe it is. I sometimes I get the terms confused. To method acting, right? They had to learn how to do all this stuff and then do it while being in the plane.
Wow. Yeah, and there's nothing to hide behind it either. They went super. It's him. It's him raw on screen. I know Brendan Fraser's getting a lot of love for The Whale, and justifiably so. I watched it and he's beautiful, but he does have all the prosthetics behind. Then you have actors who play, famous musicians in biopics. They're basically imitating. This is a film that is in a blockbuster, is in a sequel, and it's about as daring and authentic and emotional as anything you'll see. But I think because it's in an action movie, it's not going to get the love it deserves. Some people were complaining about him being nominated for recent awards, I think Critics' Choice Awards. And that seems really unfair because he puts it in, man. Like, this is a performance where he stuck himself in a plane 8 Gs and then acted. And that's not many actors do that, man. So I really do hope.
None. It's him.
Yeah, it's him, and it's beautiful. And I would love to see this movie I think it's going to get Best Picture. I mean, listen, this movie has a 96% tomato meter rating. It has a 99% audience rating. It has an 8.4 IMDb rating, and it made 1.4 billion worldwide. It is, arguably one of I would say it's one of the most critically and audience beloved blockbusters of all time. All time.
Yeah. So I my second point, I don't want to forget that one.
Sorry.
And this is more of a fun one. I definitely want to talk about Best Pictures. We're going to do that next. Just a question for you. Liven this up because we're having a very serious conversation. The first movie came out in 1986. Top Gun Maverick is a legacy sequel. What other movie from 1986 should there be a legacy sequel to?
Oh my goodness, 1986 movies. And listen,
I know which one you're going to pick. I can tell you right now, but I want you to think about it.
I mean, listen, there are some hilarious moments in this movie. The Earth bulge. Then you have, Bob. Like, when did you get here? I've been here the whole time. And then the entire audience exploded. It was like, you told me not to think. Just such a. I mean, listen, this movie's great. I don't know. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long. Oh, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, exactly. I knew you were going to pick that one.
Yeah.
So that's a great one. I would love to see a legacy sequel to Big Trouble in Little China. The other two that I'm really would be really excited about. Stand By Me. I think that would be really hard to do as a legacy sequel.
Oh goodness, yeah.
Yeah. But the other one, another movie you love, Mark, on like the third page of IMDb, Chopping Mall. Chopping Mall legacy sequel.
I was just about to say that. You have, I mean, listen, Chopping Mall legacy sequel, Big Trouble in Little China legacy sequel. Oh man, Chopping Mall. We need to talk about that eventually.
I will love to do an episode on Chopping Mall. It is a gem that I'm so happy I discovered. Did I introduce you to that one?
You did, because you introduced me to Night of the Comet, which introduced me to the actress in it, and then she's in Chopping Mall, and then I looked at Tubi, and then I went into a Tubi tear, and yeah, so you introduced me to Chopping Mall by way of Night of the Comet. So you get credit for that.
Fantastic.
Oh man, like a Big Trouble in Little China legacy sequel would work, because you have a more grown up Jack Burton. He's probably still an idiot. You have, probably most of the actors still around, and just, James Hong's still around. Just to have some fun. Kim Cattrall, like, bring everyone back. Oh man, what a movie. Let Carpenter
Big Trouble in Big China. They all end up in China.
Oh my gosh. Yes, please. I just want the people back on screen. I want that character back on screen. The time is right for more Jack Burton, because he's such an idiot. And he's so.
I don't want the Rock reboot. I really don't want the Rock reboot.
No.
I am dreading that. You can't capture it. He's not the right person.
I mean, listen, remakes are a fact of life, and they have been so since since cinema began. Movies have been getting remade and had sequels. But I'm just gonna say, I don't think Dwayne Johnson knows what makes Jack Burton work, and I don't think he would actually go there to become that character. Like, the movie works because he's not the hero. He thinks he's the hero, but he's just kind of an idiot. But the good news is he's there till the end, though. Like, so he's not the hero, but he's going to go with you till the end to get in a spot where he can nail that final 3-pointer and win the game. Like, with his reflexes. Oh, what a movie. Funny. Yeah, I would love that. And just, I don't know, man. Do you think, yeah, what about you? Is that just Chopping Mall and Big Trouble in Little China?
I mean, yeah, I think so I would love to see Stand By Me, but I really don't think they can make a new one, because the first one, remember, is a writer looking back on his life, writing about it. I think it'd be really difficult to it. Not to say they could, but, challenging. I really would love a Chopping Mall that has all those 80 vibes, those mall vibes from the 80s and 90s. You could set it in the 90s and just be like, oh, we found this killing robot in a storage thing, and now it's coming for everyone.
There's a mall in Atlanta that shut down, and Stranger Things took it over. So I would wait for someone to film in that mall and spruce it up, and then I would go film in there afterwards.
That's funny.
I would Roger Corman it up.
The king. Love that guy. But I want to get back to the best picture discussion. Sounds to me that you think this is going to win Best Picture, or at least be nominated. I wasn't clear. What were you thinking? Well,
it absolutely should be up. There's 10 spots. And this movie was beloved by audiences and critics. It pushed technology further. It's a 4-quadrant film that features very good performances. So if this is not nominated for Best Picture, there's going to be some issues. I think this absolutely should. And most of the times I think the highest grossing movie of the year probably should. I do. And call me crazy, but if there's 10 spots and you only nominate 8 movies, why not put the biggest movie of the year there? And this is the biggest movie of the year that actually deserves it. It's like the cinematography. There's a scene where they are going for their final run, and when those planes line up behind Maverick, I just went, wow. Like, they did that. It's beautiful. The cinematography is gorgeous in this movie. And so if this is not nominated, I think there is an issue. But I mean, they're pushing hard for it. They sent me screeners, even though I bought it. This movie is making a push for Best Picture, and it got nominated at the National Board of Review as the #1 movie. It got nominated at the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice. So this will get nominated for Best Picture. I will wear a mustache for a month if it doesn't.
I mean, you're going to wear it when it does. So, yeah, you have some great things going on there. I think there's also a really strong narrative. So before I get into that, yes, I think this is going to be nominated for one of the 10 Best Pictures. They're locked in at 10. They're going to pick 10. This is 100% going to be on. I think it has a really strong shot for winning Best Picture. And I say this not because this is not my favorite movie. I know I'm gushing over it. I love this movie. It's top 2, but it's not my favorite movie of the year. But I think it deserves the Best Picture for just everything around it. Saving movies, showing that you can do practical effects, pushing stuff forward. And then there's always this element of a narrative around Best Pictures. Mm-hmm. And as far as I understand, Tom Cruise doesn't have an award, a Best Picture, or an Academy Award.
No, he's been nominated for Magnolia. He's been nominated. Jerry Maguire. He's been nominated several times, but he's never won. He's been nominated for 3 Oscars, never won. So yeah, Born on the 4th of July, Jerry Maguire, and Magnolia.
Yeah, and he's one of our best actors, film producers alive, and we have not honored him. The Oscars have not honored him. That is crazy to me. So that's why I think there's a strong narrative that he could get this. He could be pushed forward, and they could say, okay, you produced it. We're going to give you Best Picture. You win your Oscar. Alternatively, and I don't know if they're going to do this again. I have no insider. Giving him a special award for, again, quote, saving theaters in the summer would be fantastic and recognize his contribution.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do a night of back patting you can't do a night where everyone just pats each other's backs and not recognize what Top Gun Maverick did. Like that would be
exactly. It's crazy.
That would be that would just be hilarious if that happened, because yes, like you said, this is 1.5 billion. And I mean, listen, there, Jurassic Park Dominion cleared $1 billion, Rise of Gru cleared $1 billion, but those movies did a lot more worldwide than they did domestically. Like Top Gun Maverick just absolutely cleared it at the domestic box office, and so I think it was really responsible for, how much did it make domestic? I keep talking about how much it made. I just put in top gin. What's your top gin, David?
I don't have, this movie made a ton. I have no idea.
Let me look domestic real quick. Top Gun Maverick domestic. It's the 5th highest domestic grossing film. It made over 700 mil. It made over 700 million. And you know what's crazy? So I worked for this show called Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong. It's a podcast, and I pulled research, and every episode I pulled the box office data for each film. A lot of movies will drop off after 5 weeks. A lot of movies will drop off after 6 weeks. Sometimes a movie drops off after 3. Sometimes it's a Titanic and it hangs around for a year. But Top Gun Maverick did, let's see, it made 160, then it made 90, then it made 51, then it made 44, then it made 29, then it made 25, then it made 15, then it made 12, then it made 10, then it made 8, then it made 7, then it made 7, then it made 6, then it made 5, then it made 6, then it made 8, then it made 3, 2, 1, 1. Like that's unheard of.
Keep going.
Like that for that fact, the word of mouth for this movie was unbelievable. Like remember when I guess I could compare it to National Treasure, even though National Treasure didn't make 700 million. If you look at the box office, it didn't have the biggest weekend, but it stayed strong for 2 months because I think families realized it was safe. I think people realized there's action and treasure in it, but it's also family friendly. I think it stayed in the theaters because people realized it was a 4-quadrant. And I think that's the same thing for Maverick. And so, oh man, I know we haven't even talked much about the movie.
No, yeah.
but this is an important movie, David. And like you and I are both researchers. You and I both, you deal a lot with marketing. You deal a lot, you and I, you deal with the research, the writing. You thrive on research, and I think you and I both like understanding why something's successful, if that makes sense, or how to make something successful, and just all the ingredients of this did it. And I think that's really worth exploring in this movie. And listen, there's great scenes. I mean, just all the training montages at the end with Maverick, and they steal the plane, and like it's all analog, like what the F-14 against the Generation 5s. Uh, Beautiful stuff. And like, even Glenn Powell coming back, like blowing up the enemy plane. And John Hamm, the horizontal blind work in this movie, David, is beautiful. A lot of like, I was watching Con Air, right? And in a lot of movies, I hate how they light offices. I hate how they light home because it will be noon, but the light is coming in parallel into the house. Like you can tell a light source was set up on the ground and shooting into the home with light spilling in parallel. That's not how light works. Now I get that you're in a movie and you got to light it, but in this film, the horizontal blind, you have a lot of horizontal blinds. You can open and close, and just if you type in like Top Gun blinds and just look at the way that scenes with John Hamm or Ed Harris, the way that light hits them, it looks beautiful. Like it's like there's a scene in Con Air that is lit so it really crushes my soul. So yeah, I mean, just every little bit about this, man, is beautiful. So I mean, you have the horizontal blind work. You have Tom Cruise looking silly on the boat. Jennifer Connelly's just owning him. He gets thrown out of it. This is a guy who only has his job because his buddy keeps him in. So it's so nice not to see him in Mummy, like Lothario territory, but in a very fallible form. And I dig that about him. It's cool. Like it's I don't know. And I like all the pilots too. I know a lot of them don't have much screen time, but this is Top Gun Maverick. So any complaints you have about the side characters not being fleshed out, you got to remember this isn't their movie. And I still like them enough. I still know their names. Yeah, Bob is
they'll
great.
be around for Maverick Rooster or Top Gun Rooster.
And also too, like, I really like Monica Barbaro as Phoenix. I thought she was super cool. You got Jay Ellis as Payback, Danny Ramirez as Fanboy. I like Coyote too. Like, you just get some cool. I don't know, like Hondo, man. Hondo's the best.
He's great. I don't understand what he does, like why he's there, but he's great.
I do feel bad for Manny Jacinto because he was he's a really great actor, and they must have cut all of his scenes because he's in The Good Place.
Yeah, I the first time I noticed he was in it was when I watched this. I believe this is my fourth time, and I saw him in the background. I was like, holy shit, he's in this. Like, what is his lines?
How pissed off would you be if you spent months? Well, you're getting paid. And you're learning practical skills, and you're on a set, and you can't watch, but all of your scenes get cut, and you're just in the background. Because he has some heat, man. Like, that was But also, we have to remember that this movie was delayed 2 years. So when he made this, Good Place was still doing okay, and he hadn't really picked up yet. So I guess it makes sense that he's a side character in this movie. Because this was supposed to release in 2020.
They're like, nope.
Nope. Do you think this movie worked so well because there was no desperation to it? I think they took so long to get the script. Bruckheimer says all the time, like, the only reason this movie got made is because Cruise finally liked the script, and Kaczynski actually went and pitched this to him on how to do it. So this isn't one of those movies where they're desperate and they're like, okay, just make a legacy sequel to get you some heat again. Does that make sense? This is a movie that happened because it was right. Not happen because they needed to give Cruise a bump in numbers.
They took their time because I remember reading they wanted to push this to streaming and oh hell no. Like, if this came out on streaming, I still think it would have gotten good reviews. But the experience is for a big screen. Like, it's for the biggest screen possible.
Yeah, biggest screen. I mean, and imagine, I love also too how it goes from 239 to 199. The aspect ratio changes in this movie. Like, I feel like they're quite flawless because sometimes when you're watching a movie, I think that you sense the kind of shift in aspect ratios, but when this switches to IMAX, it feels so good, doesn't it? And just pulling off the two miracles and then pulling the G's, and then when the rockets are coming, oh yeah, oh man, and when that helicopter gets blown up when it's about to hit Cruise, so good, so good.
So you mentioned that we haven't really talked about the movie. I think we've all danced around it a lot. Why don't we pick our top 3 moments? I don't have mine written down. I'm gonna have to come these off the top of my head. Oh, do you want to do that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can drop them on you while you're thinking about yours.
Well, go ahead. What do you got?
I mean, the one you told me not to think. Like, it's it's a really bit. Funny. It's a joke. It kind of comes out of nowhere, but it's funny, and I love Cruise's response to that. He just freezes, and he just it's like, crap. That's what I told you. And also, man, this movie has a lot of platitudes, but also I think platitudes in these regards are important because you don't have much time to think when you're in an airplane. So you need to be able to condense information down to as quick as possible. So I dig the platitudes, and I love that. You told me not to think. Absolutely beautiful. Love that scene. Next is the Iceman and Maverick conversation because
So good. I mean, we
man,
haven't talked about Val Kilmer enough.
oh
Like
no,
seeing
yeah,
him on screen, knowing what's going on in his life, it was hard, right? It was very hard for me to see that because he's such a great actor and a piece of my youth, right?
Willow. I mean, just watching
Yeah,
him,
Willow.
Batman. I mean, this guy with Top Secret, real genius. Like, what a charismatic man. And he, even though they had to do some CGI augmentation and everything, it's just beautiful seeing him back on screen. And if there's an Oscar clip, they need to show that scene because Cruise acts his face off. It's it's subtle, it's funny, and it ends with a great bit where he just says, like, let's enjoy our time. Let's not get into who's better. And this movie is quite funny. You have that scene where, Cruise says it's the only one I got. Like, when he's talking about like he's like, why are you making that face? He's like, well, it's the only one I got. And just uh, so I have those. Those are two. And then I would say the third is just when Rooster finally picks up during their mission, during their Star Wars bombing run from A New Hope, where they have to stay in the trenches and land an impossible shot into an air duct, which is very New Hope-esque, but I love it.
It's awesome.
But once again, that once you're familiar with it, so then you can just embrace yourself in the world. And so there's a reason why it was so familiar. But yeah, I would say that, just watching him pick up, and then I love that Jay Ellis as Payback's like, "Well, slow down, man," and just going in between the bridges, watching that. You already know the missiles are high, and you know the missiles will shoot if they go up. It's just such a cool. Once you're so familiar with it, you feel like you're on the mission with them. Like your body's almost swaying in your seat watching it. So those are my three favorite moments. And there's Sailor Jerry. There's Sailor Jerry at Penny's bar, which I'm cool with Sailor Jerry. Also, she makes people pay entire rounds when they leave their phone on their bar. That's a lot. Like you would go into deep credit card debt, David.
I mean, that's why he couldn't afford it. Yeah. So I think the scene that I freaked out the most at was when the 5th gen fighter pulled that crazy move where it just like went vertical. And like I literally was like, what? In the theater. I mean, I don't know if that's CGI or not. It's probably CGI. But I freaked out a lot with that. I love Jennifer Connelly's character. She can give it to Maverick, and let's be honest, Maverick's a little bit of a dick. She can give as much as she gives more than what she gets. Let me put it that way. Like she puts Maverick in her place multiple times. And also Jennifer Connelly. I love Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, she's been crushing it for decades, 4 decades.
Yeah, decades.
Now. 80s, 90s, 2000s, 5 decades.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to think of the other things that I thought was really good. I think this is maybe a really small moment that stuck out with me the entire time. Is when Rooster loses his second match to Maverick, and he has to do another 200 push-ups, and Hondo's trying to make him stop, but he won't stop. And I just think like sort of the encapsulation of that character right there. He's so angry at Maverick that he won't give Maverick anything, any leverage on him at all.
None. And Hondo leaves.
Yeah.
You'll do him. I trust you. You'll be fine. It's all good.
And then I did want to mention, this is not one of my favorite moments. It is a great scene though. When they sing Great Balls of Fire, did you listen to any of the interviews Miles Teller talked about for that?
No, what was he saying?
So he learned how to play that song. He learned how to play that whole song. And he thought there's going to be way more of it on him. And in the film, it's literally like 3 seconds, and it's all on Tom Cruise's face.
That's funny. But that's a very Miles
really
Teller
funny.
thing. I mean, look at Whiplash. Like the guy works hard. Like I think he's just as driven as Cruise is. So that's funny. And that's a good scene watching him outside and then just playing the piano and that's so good. What do you think about the football scene? Do you think it's a worthy heir to the volleyball scene from Top Gun? They're still wearing jeans, by the way, David Cross.
I saw that and I was like, guys, what are you doing? It's a good scene. I prefer volleyball over offense, defense, football. But I understand why they changed it up, right? They don't want to do the same thing over and over and over. You know what we haven't really talked about is really Miles Teller. Like we've talked a ton about Tom Cruise, but where is Miles Teller on your list of up and coming actors? He's clearly a leading man at this point.
I mean, he's been around for so long that I think he's done a good job of. I mean, listen, this guy he did Whiplash in 2014, And so when he first started movies, it was like Footloose, where he was sort of the kind of nerdy best friend. And now I think, yeah, with this movie, he sort of stepped into leading man territory. Like, in Spectacular Now, I love that movie, but he was very much so the kind of indie Lloyd Dobler-esque teenager. And so I think he kind of got stuck in that for a little bit, where he had to do the Divergent movies. I feel bad for everybody who is stuck on the Divergent movies. There's 3 of them, and they're not
Brutal.
good. So he, you know what sucks for him? So he did Footloose, he did Rabbit Hole, which with Nicole Kidman, that was really good. But then he did Footloose, Project X. But then he followed it up in 21 and Over, really bad movies. But he did Spectacular. Well, Project X is like chaotic and fun. But he did Spectacular Now, Whiplash. But then he got stuck with that awkward moment, Divergent, Fantastic Four, Allegiant, Get a Job. So he had a 2-year spell where he couldn't capitalize on Whiplash. And then I think he started changing a little bit. He did War Dogs. He did the boxing movie Bleed for this. He did Only the Brave with Kaczynski, which if you haven't watched, you really should check it out. Jennifer Connelly's in it as well. And then he had a decent break. He did a show with Nicholas Winding Refn. And yeah, then Top Gun Maverick. So I think now he's ready to take that next step. And he was in the show about The Godfather as well. So yeah, I think he was huge in 2012, 2014. Hit a bit of a dry patch, and then this movie comes out, explodes, and I think he's gonna be able to make more moves now.
I mean, do you want to watch Top Gun Maverick? Not Top Gun Rooster? That's a legitimate question, not a joke.
If it's the same team, yeah. I mean, it won't have the budget and it won't have the time, but if you have the same cast, I mean, I like all this cast. If you bring them back, if you explore, yeah. I mean, I think he can carry the screen because. Spiderhead wasn't good, by the way. Netflix. That was Kaczynski. And that was with Hemsworth too. Not really a fan, but I think I think I would watch that. Why not? I think he doesn't like sequels though. I think he would come back for it, but this seems like a guy who likes tackling weird roles, and so I think he's going to keep it much more varied. And also on Whiplash, I guess he was kind of a very driven, and I guess on some sets he was like kind of trouble for directors. I'm not sure if this is the case anymore because that was 8 years ago. But yeah, I would. That's a very long answer, but I would love to watch Top Gun Maverick 2. Rooster.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would see Top Gun Maverick 3. Or we're very confused here. Top Gun 3. But I do think it would have to take more of a latter day Mission Impossible. And then the latter day Mission Impossibles, Tom Cruise does like 1, maybe 2 action stunts, but the rest of them are done by someone else. I mean, that was why they brought Jeremy Renner in, even though he's no longer.
Yeah.
So it would be like Maverick comes in for 1 stunt scene, but the rest of it is.
I mean, the technology's there. They don't have to recreate this technology. So have him and the team doing another mission, but like, it wouldn't feel organic, David.
It wouldn't. It really wouldn't. Like
me explaining it again, I lost all the life of all enthusiasm for the movie because I'm like, yeah, them again, and then they got to go do something else. I'm a big fan of. I just like people going and doing different work. I think Sebastian Stan is a guy capable of doing some really interesting work, and I think being stuck on Marvel movies makes him bank, and that's why he can be an interesting work. But you watch him in The Bronze or Logan Lucky, and you kind of feel bad that he's stuck as Logan Lucky as Bucky in the MCU. So I don't want people in sequels. I want more funky movies, if that makes sense. Like, give me more weird films.
Yeah, I want that too. Yeah, I want that too. But yeah, I think we have to realize that, Mark, you and I, and probably most of the listeners of this podcast, watch more movies.
Yeah.
Right? Like the normal person probably only sees a couple movies and there's going to be the big ones. And so we're watching literally like big ones and all these really weird things. By the way, shout out to Deadstream. You should watch it on Shudder. Yeah, but what I'm getting at is like, we're probably not the target audience, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. No, we're not. It would be successful, and sequels are inevitable. But yeah, I just like funkier stuff, man. That's where I'm at with my life right now. But I also have to understand how the world works and not become a curmudgeon. So sure, give me the sequel. If you can find an angle for it like this one did, why not? Do it.
Yeah, I mean, he has to learn a new machine. I don't know. He got a hold of a 5th-gen fighter.
Oh.
I'm just making stuff up. Like
Aliens Attack.
Or he's a drone pilot. Alien Attack? No, I think that's a bad idea. But it's funny. I would watch a movie about an aliens attack and Top Gun has to stop him. But it would have to be a different movie.
I would be like, wait, what a second? Like, wait, aliens? Like this War of the Worlds? Ooh, War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds 2, Top Gun Maverick, Top Gun Rooster. What do you think?
Oh, sold. It's going to be put out probably next week by the guys who do all the knockoff movies, which I really want to watch one of those one time. We should probably find the best knockoff blockbuster and then see how that movie is actually.
This summer, the aliens get smarter. And then
they can open doors.
Gen 5 fighters against the War of the Worlds ships, and they don't have to worry about Earth viruses killing them. Let's see that.
Or here's an idea. Rooster just keeps crashing and having to get older and older and older planes. just like what? An F-10? What's that?
Wait,
using a jumbo jet at some point.
What's an F1? Now
I have no idea.
It doesn't even fly. It's just a car, F1 car. Now, Moonfall 2, Top Gun Rooster.
Moonfall 2. Oh my god.
What do you think? What do you think?
That movie. I love that movie.
What about
Moonfall?
Top Gun 3, Earth Bulge.
That's the Earth.
It's so
funny. It's so funny. It is dumb, but it's really.
Hey, can I stash you a question?
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about we were talking about Rooster and his wonderful and Miles Teller, and he has a great mustache in this movie. So what are some of your favorite mustaches from cinema?
That is a great question. Off the top of my mind is the movie Tombstone. Three main leads. Basically everyone in that movie has an amazing mustache. So you can't go wrong picking. But my favorite of that movie is Doc Holliday's really weird kind of like curly stash. And that's Val Kilmer.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's lovely in that. Yeah, that's.
I need to rewatch that.
Oh, it's you want to hear my list? Who I came up with? All right, so I have Ram Charan from RRR.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful mustache. I have Danny Trejo from Machete.
Great.
I have Al Leong from Die Hard because he has a mustache in pretty much everything. I also have Black Dynamite because I love that movie. But I did some research, and I want to do Tom Cruise from Born on the 4th of July because that's like his one mustache role when he becomes all depressed and he starts growing the facial hair. And Glenn Powell from Everybody Wants Some. So we got to touch Glenn. We got to talk about Glennie in this movie because I love Glenn Powell. Everybody Wants Some. Set it up. If he's in a plane movie, I watched Devotion this year too, the Korean Navy film with Jonathan Majors. Really good. He's in that. So if he's in a plane, watch it. And if he plays baseball or watches baseball, Set It Up or Everybody Wants Some. Watch that. So yeah, that's my mustache list right there.
Yeah. So I have a couple more. The one, Captain Hook, Dustin Hoffman from Hook.
Oh yeah.
So weird and creepy. It like curls up and it's really wide and curls up. I think Mel Brooks with the really thin mustache, it looks incredibly creepy on him. So I think that's funny. And then H.I. McDonough from Raising Arizona. That's Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then I really think we can't skip over Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, he's stash. He's big stash.
Yeah, from Gangs of New York. And so that's I believe that's 5. One that I kept going back and forth on, maybe you, is Hercule Poirot, Orient Express, and how his thing is just insane. Like it's handlebars long, like it's crazy. But I haven't seen that movie, and it also felt like kind of bombed, and maybe not many people have.
Oh, it's getting a third. It's getting a third one, I think. They make money.
Oh my god, they do. That's surprising. That's really surprising.
Because it's popcorn movie. It's just a detective flick with Kenneth Branagh doing a French accent and having a gigantic mustache. It's not. It's good, but I think the mustache wears him a little bit, whereas he doesn't wear the mustache. In RRR, Ram Charan, that mustache, he wears it. If that makes sense. In Hot Fuzz, the Andes, they wear it. The mustaches don't wear them. So I think I don't like overpowering mustaches, and it's way too overpowering for me. It takes over. It's a lot.
One we didn't touch. We'll just call this the stash emeritus. Big Lebowski, Sam Elliott.
Oh yeah. I mean, I try to
like every movie he's in. It's great.
Him, Selleck. I mean, it's just Mustache City right there. But I mean, we gotta talk Shaft as well. He had a great mustache. Mm-hmm. So I think my favorite mustache cinematic moment ever, though, is in Hot Fuzz when Andy takes a sip of Guinness and he's told that he has a mustache, and Patty Considine goes, "Yeah, I know." So he has a double mustache, David. A double mustache. Real mustache, beer mustache. Glorious.
Yeah. Most underappreciated mustache, Biggs from Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's in my 2 scenes, but he has a mustache. So, Mark, here's the opposite of you. What character in cinema should have
Okay, I think Maverick should.
I mean, I don't know if it's his personality, but I mean, I'll watch it.
Well, I guess I'm just thinking weird. Like that it would just be, you see that movie and okay, so I'm gonna go serious here. So which character from like Nick Cage has a mustache in Kick-Ass, so we can't touch that one. Let's see. Let me look at Nick Cage movies. I feel like there's been Nick Cage movies where he could have had a mustache, and I am gonna go. Oh, that reminds me. Oh crap, I have The Old Way. I gotta watch that movie. Let's see. What? So mine was Tom Cruise, but you didn't seem too proud of that one. So I'm gonna say Bad Lieutenant, the Werner Herzog movie.
100% works.
Yeah, there we go. Or Drive Angry. I think he could rock a stash in that. So either Drive Angry or Bad Lieutenant. That works for me.
So I think for me, I characterize, I think really should have a mustache is Hellboy. I mean, he has like a soul patch thing, but he deserves to have a full-on stash. Like that character is meant to have one.
Yeah, let the man have a stash. That'd be great. I like that. Hellboy with a mustache, or Nick Cage in Bad Lieutenant Port of Call, New Orleans, with a mustache. I think that works.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. That makes me happy. Any thoughts about Top Gun? I mean, we haven't talked about the 2,000 pounds of an elephant on your chest. We haven't talked about him throwing a booklet into the trash. John Hamm just being the obligatory angry guy standing there. I mean,
we haven't talked about Ed Harris getting the best dust bath ever.
Oh man. And how firmly are his feet planted, because the roof of that building flops up, but Ed Harris doesn't go anywhere. I mean, the immovable Ed Harris in that scene. And just, I love the boat scene. I love when Tom Cruise drops down from the window and the daughter sees him. I think Hangman gets a great scene where he's a stereotypical jerk in this movie, but I think a lot of the questions that he asks are actually pretty good. I think his slow ride burn is actually really good. He puts slow ride in a jukebox, and then halfway through the song he goes, "Oh yeah, this is my favorite song for you." Like he long plays an insult, which is beautiful. Bob and I've been doing so much research about this movie, but Bob and Phoenix were originally supposed to be opposed to each other. Like Phoenix was supposed to be much more of an alpha, and she didn't like Bob, but they had such good chemistry on set that they just became best friends in the movie. And it was just Bob and Phoenix go to I want a Bob and Phoenix movie. Let's do that. Let's do Bob and Phoenix go to Phoenix.
Harold and Kumar will be there. Yeah, that I do like those characters a lot. I would say there's like one thing, maybe one small critique that is both, I think it makes the movie work, but also when you've watched the film like 2 or 3 times, you're like, this just keeps happening. They repeat a lot of dialogue, like the main themes over and over and over. And the main one is, stop, don't think, just do. And then it's the man in the box, right? It's that theme over and over and over. The man in the box thing I think is really interesting. It kind of picks up on the fears in our society right now of technology replacing a lot of people. So I think the movie did a great job touching on that. And then the other thing they keep saying a lot is like they go over the plan like 3 or 4 times, but they do it in interesting ways. They like have different people say the plan, and they show like different scenes over the monologue, and so people keep interested. But again, if you've seen it as much as I have, it's like, I know the plan.
Yeah.
Right? This is the 4th time I've seen the plan work. It doesn't matter that Warlock is saying it this time. I've seen the plan.
Yeah. Well, Warlock's coming in. We're going to do 4 minutes now. Like you just, but I think that repetition allows you to just be comfortable with the action, because you know exactly where it's going. And
because they always add a little more of a wrinkle to it. Just like
David, I have a top. Would you watch Phoenix and Bob go to Phoenix, or Bob and Phoenix go to Phoenix?
I'd watch that. Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
I think if you put any like aerial combat on TV, I will watch it. Done.
Oh man, this is. I know we talked a lot. I know it got serious, but I just have such thoughts about this movie and why it was a success. Like just, I'm probably more lucid than I've ever been for a long time, but I just love this movie so much, David, and I'm glad that we got to explore something that was really good, because we've been exploring a lot of fun knockoffs and werewolf movies, which I adore, and underworld films, but this is a very rare, near perfect blockbuster. So I wanted to give it I wanted to give it the respect it deserved.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to do some more of these. So Mark, what do we want to do next? We have a lot in our pipeline. Deep Star 6 is hanging out in the back of our head to continue our Jaws ripoff series. Are you interested in doing that or something else?
Yeah, I mean that, Piranha, and Chopping Mall.
Oh, I love all of those. You just tell me which one you want to do. I'm happy to jump in.
Well, I mean, you already watched Deep Star 6, so we'll do that. And then, are there
Yeah.
any drafts you want to do? Well, think of some fun drafts. Let's get some extra content out there. Let's get some extra David Cross out there. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, we'll get you on the show. So, man, thank you so much for joining me, man. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on all the all the internets, right? It's me, David Cross, across every handle. Just look me up. I'm very active on Twitter. I have a podcast where we were on hiatus for a little bit because I had some medical issues, but it's back up and rolling. That's Award Wieners, and what we do is we watch Best Picture winning movies. We break it down scene by scene to talk about what we like about it, what was going on behind the scenes. And we pair that with a homemade hot dog recipe based on a movie. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek here. We just did Argo, and the hot dog that I suggested, my doctor would kill me if I actually ate this, was a hot dog wrapped in Canadian bacon, topped with
Oh,
the Canadians hiding the American.
oh, that's beautiful.
It's a fun podcast. We only do it like once every 2 months because we end up watching all the Best Picture.
I mean, the problem,
Very serious.
the problem with the Best Picture nominees is that there's so much research that goes with each of them,
Yeah,
and then the
yeah.
time frame and why they won. If you did it every week, you'd go insane. You would.
Yeah. Even a month. We were doing it once a month, and I was still going pretty insane because it's just too much content. Like all the Best Picture winners are like 2.5 hours long, very serious, a lot of stuff has been written about almost all of them. So we're trying to just focus on quality over quantity. We're going to do a couple year, and if you like fun stuff, we do take a break to do like theme movies. So recently we did 2 forgotten Marvel movies. Blade and Ghost Rider. I know neither of those are forgotten. We just, wanted that title. So we do some fun ones every now and then, but we're primarily serious podcast.
No, you guys had a bunch of jokes too, though. I like the history. I dig it. I like the information. You'll learn while listening to it. That's the best part. That's what I like learning, David.
Yeah, that's the goal. Everyone loves learning. I hope your listeners learned a lot from this podcast. We talked a lot about production on it.
But that's good, man. That's awesome. I love it. That's what I want to tackle. That's why I started a podcast, is to kind of talk about what interests me. So I might have dragged you into it, but I'm glad we did this.
No, I felt like I learned a ton too because I know nothing about lighting.
And now you know about horizontal blind lighting, so it's good. All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks. This was great.
All right, so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for David Cross, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.